again. Another episode of Men on Trek, episode 11. Tonight we have Omega Glory, originally aired on March 1st, 1968. Back again, Admiral looks good in red Keith, Captain Mark Daystrom, Captain James T. Palpatine. Gentlemen, welcome to another episode. Welcome back to Men on Trek.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
2021.
2021.
2020.2. It's like a star date.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah. Still here. So, Omega Glory, gentlemen. I know one of your favorites, both of you, for sure. One of mine, too.
Another captain's episode.
Another captain's episode. What can go horribly wrong?
Too much. It's like, do you really want this job? Really want to be a starship captain?
Mm-hmm.
Beam down to a planet? Be stuck?
Get these guys built up so much, and when they crack, you can hear it halfway across the galaxy.
Oh yeah, they crack hard.
Oof.
The greater the rise, the farther the fall.
Captain Tracy.
So, opening scene, Enterprise is looking good in the remaster as always, and it's coming into the area.
Mm-hmm.
It's business as usual for our intrepid heroes. But they come into the system and near a planet called Omega 4. Captain Kirk indicates that the Exeter, which is another Constitution-class starship, was last known to be working in the area or surveying in the area.
That's after the scans show that there's a starship around.
Or in orbit around Omega 4.
Yeah.
And they find out that it's the Exeter, and Kirk goes, well, they've been missing for
6
a
months.
little bit, 6 months.
6 months or so.
Well, I think he said last he heard of them 6 months ago they were operating in this area, but he hadn't heard anything had happened.
Yeah. They didn't know anything was wrong.
That's another thing that's amazing about these episodes. Like you can be out there in a starship for 6 months. Nobody hears anything from you,
right?
And they're not out there as a search party.
Ain't nobody looking for
you.
And it's business. It's business as usual unless you call for help.
Not reported overdue for another 4.5 years, I guess.
Ain't nobody looking for
you.
Till you miss that scheduled starbase check-in, it's all good.
If you're too far out for communication to get back, you're SOL.
And this is not only another captain's episode, it's another second ship on the scene episode.
Oh yeah. Very important. Don't ever be the first guy to show up. You might not make it.
That's the Daystrom theory. I'm gonna officially call that after 11 episodes of Men on Track. The Daystrom theory for you fans means you're the second starship on scene.
If you want to live.
You have the greater chance of surviving whatever the encounter is.
Right.
If somebody else took the bull first.
Mm-hmm.
Took the horns, and you can see, okay.
In life, they say you are standing on the shoulders of giants. In Star Trek, you are stepping over the bodies of those that were first.
That's the truth. That's the truth. It's like any explorer. Think about the exploration of the United States.
Or any place, yeah.
Any place. You get out there, you're the first guy, you get stuck with a TC fly, and you're gone. The next guy goes, TC flies
TC flies are bad, yeah.
Or mosquitoes.
Yeah, the guy you learn about in history class is not the first guy to go.
No,
that's right. No,
he's not the
he's
first.
Not
guy.
even the second.
He's not the first.
Because the first and second probably died on the same.
That's right.
The same adventure.
Who was first? We don't know. He died.
Mm-hmm. He died, and we learned it. This will kill you. That'll kill you. This will kill you. There's too many things out there.
Are you from the first colony in Jamestown?
No, nobody.
We're all dead.
Nobody is.
Nobody is.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And
that's not counting the natives.
No. Well, it's interesting who beams over. So I think they do scan, and there's no one on the ship, right?
Right. There's no life on the ship.
So it's Spock, Kirk.
Chekhov.
No.
McCoy.
And Galway.
And Galway is
a security guy.
Security guy. No engineers on this ship. No engineer.
Nothing's wrong with the ship.
That's true.
Yeah,
It's in standard order.
Touche.
They just took it's one of the rare times they took a security guy because the situation kind of was like, well, the ship's fine. So what's going on over here? Let's take a little muscle with us just in case.
Nah, the writing needed Galway to die in the episode. Show how bad Tracy got.
Well, I know that, but
Red shirt.
they figured out that they took a little muscle with him so
Yeah.
he could be muscle, so he could catch that phaser later. You spoiled the surprise
And we're also
for the 3 people that haven't seen this episode.
Galway, for those who have not watched it, hopefully you will watch the episode. Galway is a red shirt, and you know what's going to happen.
that's right.
Admiral.
Not all red shirts die.
All of your boys and girls.
I will use Cartwright as my example. Cartwright makes it all the way into Star Trek 6 and does not die. He gets arrested, but he does not die.
Yeah.
Red shirts make it.
Barely.
In any event, they beam over to the Exeter.
And I think it's important that Scotty isn't in this episode. So
At all.
usually, if Spock and Kirk are leaving the ship, they turn it over to Scotty.
Scotty.
But this time they give it to
To Sulu.
Lieutenant Commander Sulu.
So that probably means the actor, James Dugan, was doing something.
Probably.
Yeah.
So he might not have been available for the app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might have been in Betty Ford.
Oh my.
He never, just because he drank doesn't mean he had a drinking problem.
Did he have a drinking problem?
No, I just threw that in
Oh,
there
okay.
because he's Scottish.
I got you.
And he's not actually Scottish.
I know. Okay.
So they're there, and they have picked up an echo on the Exeter. The Exeter echoes.
Oh, yeah.
No matter where you are, there's an echo.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the ship is so empty.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right,
They
right,
did
right.
that for
Everybody, body's in the hallway.
a fact. Did
An
that
echo,
for a
echo.
fact.
And they beam into engineering.
Right, first.
Yeah.
Which is logical. I mean, if there's going to be a major ship crippling problem, that's probably where you want to start.
Yeah.
And they send Kirk sends Spock and Galway
Galway.
out to the other decks to
Yeah.
check what's going on.
Yeah, they go to I think medical and life support first. And while Kirk and strangely enough McCoy are checking out, still in engineering. But they find uniforms and crystals
Filled with rock salt.
all over the place. Yeah.
Did you hear that Spock says we're checking out the lower decks? So this
Yes.
just goes to prove my ignorance when it comes to the actual layout of the Enterprise. If you had a model in front of me, I could point to the bridge and where I think engineering is, but I don't really know where sick bay or anything else is. But I guess my assumption is that engineering was the lower decks.
Not engineering is near the upper half or the upper part of the secondary hull, kind of behind the deflector array.
Yeah.
And there are decks below that.
Oh, there you go.
It all depends on which blueprint you're looking at.
Okay.
The original
Enterprise.
is pretty consistent. They get kind of wacky later.
Well, I'm talking about the movie Enterprise.
Well,
shows
yeah,
something different.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. The refit is a completely different story. But
Right.
yeah, engineering is in the secondary hull, kind of near the top. It's the upper decks of the secondary hull.
And there's decks below that.
Yeah.
Because I think in Wrath of Khan,
Where nothing
I call
fun
it
happens.
the neck between the saucer and the secondary hull, that neck section.
Yeah.
In Wrath of Khan, when Khan is opening up and firing,
They hit the main airlock in the neck.
yeah, I guess I thought that's where engineering was.
No.
Yeah.
Engineering's lower.
Engineering's in the secondary hull.
Gotcha.
Secondary hull. Yeah. There's nothing vital in the neck.
And then there's a secondary engineering where the impulse drive is
Yeah.
up on the saucer.
Which is up on the saucer.
Oh wow!
So there's two engineering points.
And then below that is the empty engineering room where Kirk has some of his best fights,
That's right.
including where Khan gets the pipe.
So below that is the lower decks, and not too far off of engineering, you have the shuttle bay.
Yeah.
Does Khan get the pipe? Does he get a monkey wrench, or does he get one of the
He gets the pipe.
He gets
the
a
pipe that gets pulled out of a console?
pipe
Yeah.
out of a console. It's
Yeah.
almost like a cooling rod or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's time. It's time to do
Spacey.
Space Seed.
Yeah, next.
Is
I
it
think.
time
What do you
for?
think?
Is it time for Khan?
I think it's time for Khan.
Yeah, I think so. We've done a good amount.
Yeah.
So let's go on.
So we're finding that, and when I was a kid watching this episode, I found this thing really effective. The empty uniforms with the crystals in it, that was just like, ooh, they're all gone. And even long before they said it, it was like, all these guys are dead.
Yeah, you figure it out.
All these guys are dead. Something has crystallized the entire crew.
McCoy just explains it, but the audience already grasps what's
Right.
going on.
Do you remember there's an episode where this alien race is gonna hype up the Enterprise and take it out of the galaxy,
Yes.
and then
Mhm.
they turn all
That's
the crews.
Kelvins. That's the Kelvin.
The Calvins turn everybody into like a big cube of salt.
Cubes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they crushed some of them.
Yeah,
Which is a red shirt.
yeah. It was a brother too, I think.
No, the brother survived.
The brother's fine.
The young lady gets
Young lady
crushed.
gets
Okay.
crushed.
I remember the look on his face. I didn't remember if he was before or after, but yeah, that was the Galvin episode.
Yeah, and there's another crew of the Defiant. Their uniforms laying all over the place too.
Yes.
Like they're phasing in and out of
yes.
existence.
Yeah.
It's a very effective. It was just I remember when being a kid, it was just a very effective way to illustrate that, this mass thing had happened, and it was scarier that there were no bodies.
Right. Mass exodus. Just the clothes left. And some crystals.
Yeah. So
Which Kirk tells Spock to
Check the
Oh,
log.
check. Let's
Check the
everybody
last
meet at the
log.
bridge and let's check the
check
last
the last
log.
log, right?
So when they get to the bridge, they find it's all the same. It's just bodies laying, clothing
And
with
crystals.
clothing and crystals. So when they go through the log, you get the
You get-
ship surgeon's log,
Yeah.
and he does it from the captain's seat. How,
Which we were a little upset about because
he shouldn't have been.
he's
there.
not a captain like us.
He should have been in sick bay, sending his log in.
Right. Or at most maybe standing at the science station.
He
Well-
should have done it from sick bay.
Sick bay. Yeah.
Clearly, from the way that log played out, he knew his time was short, and if he was ever going to sit in the big chair,
So you think he just took it upon himself?
hey, my body's turning to salt, and I know it. I'm going to go sit in the big chair.
That should be a Starfleet regulation that if you die, your family doesn't get anything if you unfairly sit in a big chair.
It's pretty rough there, Captain.
Yeah.
Pretty rough. It's pretty rough for a few moments in the chair.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's court-martialing.
He didn't disrespect the chair. He died on the floor.
At least I'll give him that.
There was no salt in the chair.
That's
Oh,
right.
okay.
He lunged himself
You
forward.
did not find a blue shirt in the chair.
we can let that go there.
And then it was the first time we got to see the
Exeter
Exeter's
insignia.
insignia, which looks like a shopping list from Walmart. I mean,
Very
it's
elaborate.
very elaborate, and it's about
It's a
8 inches
Myers.
long.
It's a Myers receipt.
It's a Myers receipt.
I think at the top of it is a little.
The command insignia
the
the Starfleet command insignia is in it at the top of the emblem, but the emblem is like 6 inches long and 2 inches wide. It's pretty elaborate compared to the Enterprise and some of the other ships.
Yeah.
But it was a good reminder. I mean, we may have mentioned it previously, but in the original series, every ship had its own insignia.
NCC 1672.
72.
For the Exeter.
72.
And there might be sometimes there's a relevance to those numbers, like that year may reference something, like the Reliant in Star Trek II,
1864.
1864 was done for a reason.
I think, it was a Civil War.
Yeah,
U.S. Civil War.
yeah.
So the surgeon keels over out of the captain's chair.
But first he
he
delivers the
provides some
message.
important information.
Very important information.
He says, if you're seeing this message and you've been on this ship,
You're all
lucky.
you're
dead.
already dead. Don't go back to your ship. And he says that Captain Tracy is still,
No, he says go down to the planet.
go down to the planet. Tracy is still,
Second man.
That's right.
and then
The Daystrom theory.
And then he neatly displays himself on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
having not desecrated the chair.
This is an old Dungeons and Dragons trick, but never be the first one through the door. For
Oh,
those-
yeah.
For those
A
of
little
you,
homage to some friends that have passed on. A friend of ours, Mr. Chris Davis.
yeah,
He used to be the first through the door.
You in role playing, you're never the first character through the door.
Mhm.
You let somebody else go through the door first.
Mhm.
Never know if it's traps, monsters, or whatever it is. You want to be the second guy so that you can respond to the cries of the first.
So the desire to be second is universal.
Being first it's not a good thing.
Uh-huh.
Too much is responsible for the guy who's first.
Well, I don't know, Captain. Captain Daystrom, our whole society is geared toward coming in first, being first. And
Those are hard lessons to learn. It's easier to be second.
It's easier to be second.
As the second oldest, I can tell you,
But
it's easier to be second.
well,
You Captain Palpatine, you
That's right.
understand?
Yeah, I'm number 2 too. Yeah.
well, I guess I'll
The
vary.
only thing I can find in 1672 is Isaac Newton Reed's first optics paper before the Royal Society in London. So
Hey, the way they wrote stuff in Trek,
Yeah.
that might be it.
who knows?
Now, I'll concur with you from the other side of it. I'm an only child, so I was forging ahead. I was first on the scene.
There was nobody to learn from.
There's
you.
nobody to learn from.
No.
But if you had a younger brother, he would say, "Yeah, it's good to be second."
Yeah.
Because the first child he learns everything the hard way.
Yes.
The parents are new. Their hands are still pretty heavy.
Yeah.
The second child comes along and they've learned, I don't need to beat him over everything.
Is that how you did it with your
It's
kids?
the logic, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it just happens naturally with parents. They don't think about it, but they learn, well, I don't need to chastise over everything.
All right.
And the second child's got it a little bit easier because he's got a big brother saying, don't do that. I've been down that road.
Mhm.
So it works out. It's a universal. It is Daystrom's universal theory of life. Never be the first guy through the door.
Gotcha.
Does it change if the second child becomes a middle child?
If there's
Okay.
one after.
Right.
Now the baby generally becomes a spoiled brat.
All right.
But the second child don't have to put up
Chime
a
in.
little bit easier.
Chime in
easier way to go.
chime in the comments out there. You
You
third children. Are you all brats?
I said
Are you all brats?
I said usually. They
No,
don't always
no,
become
no.
brats.
No. We'll see what they have to say.
It all depends. See,
We'll see what they have
the
to
third
say.
might not be the last. There might be someone
That's true.
after the third who becomes a
Okay.
brat.
But there is a point at which you are a second child, no matter how many children come after that.
True.
And then there is a point where the second child is the middle child.
Right. If there's
Yeah.
a third.
Right.
And they go around saying,
So-
Marsha.
That's another property.
Mhm.
The ring's
Like,
true.
You see doing men on
Been on bunch?
Men and punch.
No. So,
oh my
check me out.
goodness.
Check me out of that one.
So
Were you a Marcia or a Jan?
I won't answer that question.
Okay, a Ginger Marianne.
Ginger.
I won't answer that question.
It's coward.
I keep my thoughts to
That's
myself.
cowardice before the enemy, Captain.
I'm a second child.
Second child, you know better.
I know better.
Mm.
Some questions you don't answer,
I'm
especially
answering.
not on tape. That's gonna be out there in the
I'm
in the
answering.
manosphere.
I'm answering.
So
Kirk takes the advice immediately.
immediately, let's get out
Outta
of it. As
here.
soon
Let's bend
as soon as the guy starts screaming, Kirk's like,
Oh,
well, let's get out of here. Let's
before I think he says before it's too late.
Well, don't forget, before they see that, just before they see that record, McCoy adds gravity to the situation because he's analyzed the rock salt
Right. And he
And
starts
he's-
going over the percentages of material.
of the
minerals.
composite, and he says, "Captain, this is us without water.
Yep. The crew never left.
The crew, everybody's here, and this is not good."
Yep.
And then
He explains how much percentage
yeah.
is
Human
human
body.
body is water, and these are the
I like
residue
I like-
of the
I like
human
the-
body without
I like
water.
the line. I like the line they gave McCoy. They said he says without water we're just 3 or 4 pounds of chemicals.
True.
That's factual. So our heroes hustle to the transporter and beam down in hopes of not becoming rock salt,
Right.
to be sprinkled on my driveway in the morning.
And they materialize on the surface of Omega 4
Omega.
in what appears to be a...
Execution.
Would we say it's an... Yeah, they had an Iron Age village.
Yeah, at least. I mean, it wasn't completely consistent, but they had swords, so yeah, Iron Age. Yeah.
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 No, definitely no firearms.
No firearms.
No.
Swords, spears, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, execution in progress. A large,
Giant white man.
giant blonde white guy.
Long Caucasian.
Yes, they're trying to wrestle him onto the block to cut his head off.
Some Asians were.
Yeah,
Yes.
some based on the quilted outfits and whatnot, some suggestive of 50s era Korean soldiers or
Yeah.
Chinese soldiers from that, like the Korean
Right.
War era, is kind of what it was suggestive
About
of.
to lob off his blonde head.
Yeah,
Mhm.
with a Japanese sword. Just a little bit of a dichotomy there.
Oh, was it a Japanese sword?
Those were katanas there.
All right, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And not quite right there. But
Desilu must have shot.
somebody went in next door to the prop department and
That's
found
right.
some katanas.
Yeah.
Some
Say it's good for
Nope.
Asians to hold
Nope.
these.
No bows though. No
bows.
Yeah.
No bows. Spears, swords.
Yeah.
Not even a sling.
Yeah. And those weren't throwing spears. Those were more lances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
So
No range weapons.
So,
No shields either.
well, they didn't get that far into it, but
Yeah.
so the tall
Cloud William.
Cloud Williams.
Cloud
which
William.
We get his name late in the episode, but he's about to be executed, and his not Raquel
yes,
is there in her loincloth and her top.
fighting for her man.
Redhead, right?
Yeah.
Redhead.
Redhead.
Yeah.
Ginger or Marianne.
And Galway immediately reaches for.
Galway's a good man. Galway's gonna handle some business.
Galway is going to get you executed by Federation.
No,
That's a violation of the
Gal,
Prime Directive.
well, but Galway just had a
Galloway's stupid.
good. No,
He's going to get his captain kicked out of Starfleet.
well, they stopped him, but they weren't just going to stand by and watch the guy
Why
get
not?
executed.
You
Yeah.
don't know what the guy did.
I
I'm
think
not
you
dis-
have to.
I'm not disagreeing with
You're
you.
interrupting
I'm not
another
disagreeing.
civilization, not knowing what Cloud William did. How do you know Cloud William wasn't an axe murderer?
You 100% right, but they were moving to stop it.
No, they weren't. The Galway was. Kirk was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Kirk's going to let that dude's head roll. Because you can interfere with other cultures and civilizations.
Right.
As the episode goes on, Cloud William reminds me of somebody. But so our heroes are standing by, in spite of intrepid Galloway, red shirt. In spite of Galloway's good intentions, our heroes are standing by in obeyance of the Prime Directive to watch the execution, and a voice cries out.
But before we move on, for all those Star Trek fans, if you're a captain and you beam down to a planet and someone's head was about to be lopped off, would you intervene or not?
You can't.
And that's the problem.
Right.
The requirements of being a captain, there's a certain matter of ruthlessness. When we were talking about bread and circuses, and Maximus was talking about what was going on, the brutality, and Kirk goes up in the garden parties more brutal than
Right.
this. You know, a captain has to be able to stand back and go, look, this is not my affair. If this whole village gets
Wiped out. And that's the natural course of their society.
nothing I can do about it. I won't feel nothing about it. I'm gonna get
Mhm.
back on my ship
Well,
and I'm gonna go about my business. Because if you take it with you,
it takes a certain amount of detachment.
you take it with you, then McCoy's gonna be looking at you like, well, hold on, you didn't pull out of this. I don't know if you're mentally fit to continue on being the captain.
I mean, that begs the point. Do captains have a lifespan in their career where the wear and tear, I mean, could that be some of the explanation for Captain Tracy in this one because as the episode goes on, I keep trying to put together like what is going on in this guy's. I mean, he just seems like something broke, and not in a Commodore Decker way,
No.
or
Well,
I think it is in a Decker way.
It
I
is.
have to disagree with you.
okay,
It's because everybody on his ship is dead.
yeah, I
From
agree.
his point of view, and we jumped ahead a little bit.
We're jumping, but I agree with you. It is born out of trauma, but his reaction to it is different than Deckard's.
Like right, like most people say, well, the heck with it. Forget it.
Right.
They're all gone. This is done.
This is where
Now
I am.
it's a matter of survival. So let's go back into Cloud Williams and his execution.
mm-hmm.
So this will come forth real quick.
Right. So voice rings out, and Captain Tracy strolls in with his bodyguard, with his right-hand guys, and his Kuns?
Cuns.
Is that how pronouncing it? Kuns?
Combs,
That's
Combs?
like combing your hair.
Combs? Okay. It's not spelled completely different. Okay.
Okay.
Combs. But Captain Tracy strides in. He's obviously in charge, and he orders them to stop. He tells his comb guy to not let this happen again. No more arbitrary executions, and to put the prisoners back in their cage.
That makes no sense to me. If you've got the leader and you really want to stop this, do you just imprison him, or do you cut his head off and put it on a pike?
He doesn't know he's a leader.
He seems to.
I don't think he knew Cloud Williams was a leader.
You don't think he knew at that point? Okay.
Okay.
Nope. I think he thought he was just a.
Because as the episode
Spy.
develops,
You don't know he's a leader until very late in the episode.
Yeah.
I don't think Tracy. I think Tracy just thought he was
another guy.
another spy, or
Do you think that
a
Tracy
scout.
was just? Did Tracy do that
For Kirk's sake?
for Kirk's
I
sake?
think that was.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tracy knew he had to toe the line now that they were there.
Yeah.
And right away we find out that Tracy's. I mean, it comes off like already. We've already talked about the Prime Directive. It comes off already that Tracy's out of pocket.
Well, you don't know that until the Combs
says they have fire boxes.
They have fire boxes.
Right. And everybody looks at Tracy like, why do they know what that is?
Well, Spock says it.
Yeah. Why do they know what phasers are?
Yeah.
So you already know that Tracy's out of bounds. He's done something he shouldn't have done. But to me, even before you get to that, he's walking around in the open with these guys in his Starfleet uniform, and he's giving orders. He's taking over.
Yeah, but you don't know how much how much they know, and whether or not he's done anything to truly alter their society.
True.
The Prime Directive is about you altering someone's society. Now, if he's like, say, I'm from another village and this is how we dress, who's to know that guy will believe that or not?
Right.
It's
also interesting too. Like, remember, I've heard some stories about one of them. Superman landed in Siberia and he became, in Germany, and he becomes Uberman, and then he's, what would have happened if Captain Tracy had beamed down in an area where the Yangs were? Because he looks like a Yang.
Right.
I mean, was it just pure chance? It must have been that he
came across the Combs first.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was the last Combs settlement.
Yeah.
Now, what we haven't explained yet, and what they get into once they move from the street where Tracy can talk to them, is that the Combs, the Yangs, are very violent, very barbaric, and they almost seem like they're crazed,
unafraid of death,
berserkers.
So, what you find out is that Spock and Galway go out to do some investigation.
Well, that's you're jumping.
How far have I jumped?
That's a good little jump.
Sure.
Yeah, Tracy Tracy just tells Kirk and company that when he first gets there, that he's drained. What was it? 4 phasers.
No. The 4 phases.
Well, that's
late.
after the attack.
That's even later than my jump.
But he describes though his first encounter with them. He says he killed hundreds of them.
Well, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. So he says that they look like us,
right?
And think about this village. Thought I was one of them because these are white men too,
right?
But they're very violent,
right?
And they can't be reasoned with,
right?
And that's when the gentleman makes the statement about they got fireboxes like you got, or they got fireboxes too.
But Tracy does say that he had engaged them.
That's later.
Well, not the draining of the phasers is later, but he does say that he had killed some of them. Because he talks about Jim, you can't talk to him, you just have to. He tells Kirk, you can't talk to him, you just have to kill him.
Okay.
But so Tracy's trying to explain to Kirk, and I got the impression, like even at this point, that he knows he's in trouble now that other Starfleet officers have shown up. And he even says, in pertaining to the sickness, he says, Kirk, I'm sorry it was you that came to find me.
Right.
Because now you're stuck here with me.
Right.
You're stuck here. I'm trapped here and you're trapped here as well.
Right.
And we'll never get off this planet.
Going to be here.
So the disease that caused his whole starship to die, the only cure for it or the only relief for it
is on the planet.
So Tracy survived because when they beamed down, he stayed to talk to the elders for a survey.
Right.
Get the rights to do survey or help doing surveys.
Right.
And his crew beams back up.
And infects everyone.
And infects everybody, and they die.
Quickly.
So they must have called back to Tracy and say, hey, something happened.
Right.
They all died. And Kirk survived because they beamed down to the planet because of what the doctor said.
Right.
And Tracy makes known to Kirk and his guys that if they go back to their ship,
they'll infect everyone.
They'll infect and kill everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So they're alive purely because they were the second ship.
Oh, yeah.
The Daystrom theory.
Daystrom's theory is proven.
So Tracy makes known the cones, the yangs.
Yangs, the cones.
And the sickness.
And
there's something here on the planet that is
providing an immunity.
Mm-hmm. So they go from there to what's next after that?
They get into McCoy asks for some equipment from the ship, and they get into trying to isolate the sickness and the immunity.
So that's where we were.
Right.
They're in a room. They're sort of talking about it. McCoy and Kirk are.
Right.
And McCoy makes known that this sickness looks like biological warfare.
Yeah, something.
He says something in the very beginning. He's like, our tissues have undergone a massive infection.
Yeah.
He's like over the top. His eyes are bugging out.
And it looks like nothing he's seen before other than
chemical weapons from the 1990s.
1990 chemical warfare where people were mixing biological agents.
Right.
And in Star Trek, the 90s are very bad.
That's right.
Whenever they reference back to the past.
Roddenberry's prescience in the 90s was just off by a few decades.
That's right before Armageddon, World War III.
Yeah, everything happens in the 90s. World War III happens, the rise of the genetic supermankind, all that happens in the 90s.
So
the 90s are extraordinarily bad.
Known that the only thing he's seen like it is biological warfare, and it's crazy that we were stupid enough as humans to even get into biological
and
warfare.
He delivers that line as he turns from the camera. It's a very theatrical moment.
And it's relevant in the time because in real life at that time, countries were beginning to mess around with chemical weapons already existed, but they were beginning to mess around with biological weapons quite a bit. That was a thing until a treaty was signed, I think, in the 70s.
So he goes on to talk about the infection, and he goes, I don't even know where to begin to look.
Right.
We could be looking for years to try to find a remedy to this.
Say it could be the water, it could be pollen, it could be
Well, as a true scientist, I think what McCoy's following that scientific principle. He's trying to find what causes it and then
Right.
look for treatment.
Right.
So
Right.
The malady, and then go from the malady to
Right.
what can fix it.
Right. And they beam some equipment down from the Enterprise to help McCoy in his work. And, they've even said, do you want us to send other people down? And of course, they're like, absolutely not. You'll get infected.
No, that's later. You keep jumping ahead too. So Spock and Galway come back in.
Yeah, and they're hurt.
And
Galway's been
Speared.
punctured.
He's been wounded in his shoulder.
Speared.
And Spock lays him down and comes over to Kirk. And Kirk goes, Spock goes, Tracy's right, that they can't be reasoned
The
with.
Yangs.
And they are very violent.
Right.
And Galway goes, they're insane.
And Spock mentions that they managed to get away without
Using their face.
using their weapons.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
One thing
Without-
he said says one thing Tracy was not completely honest with is
And he pulls out phaser packs.
phaser packs.
Fa-
2 of them.
drained phaser packs.
2 of them.
Around a stack of Yang's bodies.
Stack of bodies. I'm surprised there was any
That's-
bodies left.
That's the encounter I'm thinking of, is when Spock fills in the fact that Tracy has drained phasers on these guys.
So the problem shifts from them just purely getting back to the ship,
To
because
dealing
they're
with,
no longer worried about necessarily staying alive.
right.
Well,
pro-
Spock
The-
takes a hard left, and he's like, Jim, the Prime Directive has been, violated here, and if you just stand around and do nothing, you're just as guilty.
Well,
and Kirk says, "The fool," and then Spock comes at him again, and he just, the fool.
No, but you know what's great about that? That's real world Spock in a mirror moment. That's like when mirror Spock came to Kirk and went, "They told me to kill you tomorrow if you don't do XYZ PDQ." This is your Spock, Captain Daystrom. This is your Spock saying don't violate the Prime Directive.
But before we deal with Spock, we have to deal with it. Your situation has changed from being stranded.
Right.
Okay, 1, potential death, but that's sort of been alleviated. You're on a
Right.
planet. You're going to survive,
As long as you're on the
but you're
planet.
not going to leave it. 2, there's a violent group. The Yangs are massing by the
Well,
thousands.
that's what I was going to get to. Spock says they're out there. There's thousands of them. They are massing.
So Tracy's right on 2 points.
Right.
They can't be reasoned with, and there's thousands of them massing.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to worry about him breaking the Prime Directive, and you're going to have to take his phaser from him, or you're going to be held accountable. Accountable to who if you don't survive? See, this is the problem with the Prime Directive, and this is why I think Tracy broke. His ship is dead. He's the only one left. He's not worried about what Starfleet is going to say about anything if you're dead. I'll phaser whoever I need to phaser to survive.
I think deep down inside you've always been Prime Directive challenged.
Well,
I
that's
think-
the point. And
I think
Well, it said in Bread and Circuses, he says to them, "Isn't this your Prime Directive in which you've sworn to give your life rather than break?"
and while your ship is still intact, I can see a captain going, okay, I'll give my life for my ship to get away. I'll fall on the Prime Directive sword if I can save my ship. But Decker, your ship's gone. Don't you think I know that your ship is gone? What's there left?
right.
What's left of your command? Like we talked about this in Doomsday. You think they're going to give you another command?
No.
No.
So the only thing you have left is your life.
The episode that will
And-
live in infamy.
And are you going to fall on your sword, or are you going to phaser down any Yang that comes your way?
I guess the problem I have with Tracy is, and I guess who knows, maybe he's been under this for 6 months, which is probably the maximum length of what time he would have been exposed to this situation. But you would think what a starship captain would do is if those 4 beam down, he would say the exact same thing to them, but he would just say, I've had to break the Prime Directive in order to survive. In order for you to survive, you may have to do the same. instead of the way that he kind of went about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He could have simply said, okay, here's my phaser. What are we going to do when the Yangs come? Because there's thousands of them massing. And then under normal writing, during the course of battle, they might give you the phaser back because we're going to need every competent guy to survive.
Right.
I like the way you figured out how to say
according to Starfleet regulation, they should all die.
Yes.
Or leave that village to be wiped out.
Get out of the way.
Well, the problem is the village is surrounded.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty clear to me that it's not like, well, we'll just head in the one direction where all the Yangs are. It's surrounded. And he said it, Cloud Williams says it at the end, and it's okay to slip this one in there.
Yeah, sure.
He says this is the last of the comb.
Last of the comb places.
Right. So, I mean, you're not getting out of there, you know. But like I said, it just goes back to me that it could have been a different Captain Tracy who said, look, I violated the Prime Directive.
Hit the warning button because I'm about to say something. The red alert. Or the ship damages, whichever one is.
Do I look like Audio Arthur? Do you think I know?
Try one of the blues. Phaser.
I got him.
So.
But not anymore.
So what we're about to have is they're about to be wiped out. Now, you either leave the village, if you can, you said they're surrounded, or you hold up somewhere and you let the village be wiped out.
Right.
To fulfill the prime. You let this world fight it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And kill each other.
It's really not a hard decision.
But
if you've taken the oath, you should understand that these aren't idiots who become fleet captains.
Now remember this. Tracy has been on that planet for almost 6 months. And the only reason he probably survived is probably because of Kong's was merciful.
they probably they recognized his power because he ends up in charge.
They recognize his power. They recognize that he seems to be on their side. Now, you don't know what else Tracy's been doing, but he's been living in that village for 6 months. And these are the people he can communicate with without having combat. He's not willing to let them.
And he's demonstrated the boomstick.
He's not willing to let them be overrun.
Right. Because it serves his purpose.
Well, okay, but wait a second. Let's twist him a little bit.
I think he is twisted.
Let's twist him a little bit more. So I come down there and I'm in a village of a few hundred guys. I don't have any loyalties to the comms at this point. And the Yangs are out there and they're about to. So what's the best way for me to stay alive? Maybe I phaser the entire village. And when the Yangs come walking in, I just take a knee. Except
his initial encounter with the Yangs is that they're not the ones he's going to be able to manipulate.
Or deal with. It's not necessarily manipulate. See, we're putting all these negative things on him right now, but it could be there. He can deal with the cones, and he can't deal with the Yangs because he makes a point. They can't be reasoned with.
Right, exactly. Yes.
So I can't make a deal with you.
Right. So that narrows your options.
It leads me to the devil I can deal with.
Right. Narrows your options.
So, am I going to be on a planet where the other half of the population will kill me as much as look at me? Or will I protect the village of the people who at least are somewhat reasonable?
I think also, too, I can imagine a scene. There seems to be more to that line where he says they can't be reasoned with. I can imagine a scene where Tracy tries to go to them. And he's going to try to somehow demonstrate his power or do something, and they just come at him, and he starts firing his phaser, and they just keep coming in, and he gets out of it, but he realizes even with a display of power like that, they're still coming after him.
I can't bully these guys.
Yeah,
right.
So we're adding a lot to it. From Men on Track, but just think of the scenario. If you were in Tracy's situation, what would you do? Now there's easies and there's outs. Just like we said in Mirror Mirror, would you let the mirror Spock know what was going on? Here, Tracy has an opportunity. The only thing he knows is defending this position so that he can stay alive. Because that's the point he makes to Kirk.
Right.
When the truth comes out, when Kirk questions him about the phaser. Now, when we get to that point, and when Spock was saying that you need to, you're held accountable, James T, if you don't do something, at least take his phaser from him. And Tracy has sixth sense, and he walks through the door with his phaser drawn.
Yeah. Tracy knows what kind of people he's dealing with. He's ready.
He knows the rules.
He's ready for him, yeah.
He knows the rules. Spock tipped it when he said, how do they know what fireboxes are?
Right.
Tracy knows what's coming down the pipe. He's a captain.
Right. And feeding into what Jim said, Tracy could have handled it a different way when they first arrived. But Tracy's far down the rabbit hole, and he knows when other Starfleet officers shows up, he's going to have to finagle something. I don't think he has any intention of getting back in line.
The other thing with Tracy too, and I mean, I hate to just, I think I'll tell you, it's a very well written character because I believe there's a lot of the backstory that you can create. Like if somebody's 2-dimensional, it's like I don't know anything, I don't care, I'm not going to let my imagination loose or anything. But I'm just amazed at his level of fear. He is terrified of the Yangs. Terrified. When he speaks of him, he's like shaking. It's like you would think as a Starfleet captain that, and he's a senior captain, that this isn't his first rodeo of being in a apparently hopeless situation.
The Yangs seem to have no fear.
Right.
So they can't be coward.
That's what's shaking Tracy.
They can't be bullied.
Yeah.
You can't show force and get them to back down.
Right.
They're not backing down.
He can't control the situation, and that's what's got him shaking.
They don't act like regular reasonable people would.
Right.
If you pull a gun on a reasonable person, that person will back down. They won't run in your face.
Perfect.
They'll back down.
Perfect example. Whatever he had to do or say to the Coons, they got in line. They played ball. He's in charge. And that was his expectation.
So Tracy enters in at the conversation. Kirk begins to call the ship to let Starfleet know what's going on.
Right.
And Tracy comes in with his phaser already drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And Galway, who's laying there wounded, reaches for his phaser. And Tracy does not hesitate. Galway becomes a red glow.
Another good red shirt.
And disappears.
Down the drain.
No, that once again makes no sense to me. Stun him, but I mean, he just vaporized him.
Yeah, he had him set for no evidence.
At this point, Tracy is just.
Tracy's gone.
He's gone.
He's around the bend.
He's just gone.
Tracy has made up his mind. That he's going to make this, probably initially driven by the trauma of losing his crew. But Tracy has built it up in his mind that he's got to salvage something out of this, I think.
Yeah, but it's so easy the way he throws away those Starfleet officers that he's brothers with. Throws it away and it kills one of them just without even thinking.
He does.
Think about Menagerie. When Pike is controlled or in the illusion.
Right, he's manipulating.
They're talking about, after your starship captain time, you can become a quite wealthy individual.
Right.
And he's there, and he's got the green dancing women.
The Orion slave traders and all that.
After your time as a Starfleet captain, if you play your cards right, you could set pretty good at a planet.
Okay.
So there's life after Starfleet.
Well, it's not even that. Tracy has convinced himself that he's found some kind of gold mine that's going to make him the man when he figures out how to get out of this.
Well, that just goes to, for me, that demonstrates the depths of his insanity, because he thinks that he and his little phaser can stop people coming and taking away what it is he thinks he has.
Well, So when he phasers Galloway, and he takes the weapons from everybody else,
and communicators, yeah.
and they separate Kirk. He sits down and tries to talk to Kirk after Kirk's tied up, and Kirk goes into his diatribe about.
Well, wait a second. Doesn't Tracy call up to the ship?
Yes. That's before he knocks Kirk out. That's right.
He tries to spin a tale about them being sick.
He takes the phaser, takes everybody's phaser, takes the communicator, and he calls up to the ship and says, "Your captain and party didn't beam down fast enough for the immunity to take full effect, and they are Kirk is delirious. Kirk is sick,
unconscious, delirious."
And Sulu says, "Well, we can send down an
Medical
away party,
team.
medical team." He goes, "No, we don't want any more people getting sick." And then Kirk speaks up.
Right.
Says Sulu.
Yep, and
It's clocked on the head.
and
He gets a lot of headshots in this.
Yeah.
We should count how many shots to the head Sir
So-
William takes.
so-
It's at least 4.
So he closes the communicator, and Kirk's down on the ground. He says, "Put, if they speak anything, if they say anything, cut his throat."
Right.
And he opens the communicator back up, and Sulu's like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, Kirk is delirious, and we'll let you know of anything that's going on,
And what we need.
what we need."
That's the first hit to the head.
That's the first hit today.
Yeah.
So then the next scene, Kirk wakes up and he's tied up, and Tracy comes in to speak to him.
Well, after Kirk makes an escape attempt.
Well, yeah, Kirk trips a Moman guard, and Tracy was waiting for this Captain 101 action. First thing you do is escape, and Tracy's waiting behind the door. And as soon as he hears the guard fall, Tracy busts in. I got you.
Yeah.
So throughout the whole episode, Tracy is 2 steps ahead of Kirk.
Here's what I'll say. Like, I enjoyed that series of events, but it's not the way that I would have done it. I'm not going to put James Kirk on the floor with somebody's leather belt twisted around his wrists. He would be in remember the ropes in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? You have these 3-inch ropes tied around your chest all the way down to your waist in a chair up against a wall. That's not a restraint.
So Tracy comes in.
Well, especially since you find out later they got a proper jail.
So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's where the Yang is. You can't put him in there.
They did.
So they put Spock in the jail.
And McCoy.
McCoy is a slave doing the work, research.
Well, when he takes Kirk down there, that's when they get McCoy out.
Yeah.
So Tracy comes in and stops the escape attempt, and they sits down with James T. and they have the conversation. And James T. starts straight out with what he's required to say, and Tracy goes,
He finishes what?
yeah, he like I said, he's already 2 steps ahead of Kirk in every point.
Right.
So he goes, "I know what you're going to say, and I know what your response. You said what what Starfleet requires you. Now, why?" So he starts to explain that they stumbled upon the fountain of youth.
Yeah, and nobody there is sick.
That his there's no disease. Nobody's ever had a disease, and he calls in his henchman, which is 42 years of the red bird old, and the red bird is every 7 years. 11 years. Thank you. Every 11 years. So that made him 460 some odd years old.
Right.
And his father's over 1,000.
Right. And
So
nobody's even sick.
So he puts forth the plea to James, to Kirk, that this is proverbial fountain of youth,
Right.
and it's worth us violating the prime directive, because what can be attained from it is worth more than anything else.
And I think that's him trying to
Justify?
justify his actions and find some good or some meaning in the death of his crew.
Yeah, I think it's his most it's the most promising fantasy for him to have
Exactly.
coming out of this, is that we're gonna find something here that's gonna make us incredibly
make this worth it.
powerful. Not at a Starfleet level, but as a level of humanity of what.
I disagree with you partly. The reason I'm partly in disagreement is because it's not just a fantasy. These people do live longer. Now, his conjecture of
Why and how.
of taking their genetic or whatever happened and making it applicable to other humans throughout the galaxy might be a fantasy. But it's true, these people are living longer. Now, I'm stuck here. I didn't die from the disease. I'm still alive. My whole ship is dead. So there might be something that will extend our life here. So I'm going to stay alive long enough to find out. Now, this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll push back a little bit. I still think it's magical thinking. It's like people like, well, I'm going to win the lottery. You know, I mean, if he uses common sense, what makes him think in all the galaxy? And he, like, once again, this is not a guy right out of the academy and has no experience. Tracy's been around the block. And has there ever been any mention of this? Oh, yeah, there's a planet of immortality, and that they've never seen it. They've never heard it anywhere. And I understand they boldly go where no one's gone before. But it's like, I think for him, he was like, he knows the rules. He lost his crew, so he's done as far as Starfleet. So what am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to go trade Green Orion slave girls. Well, I can only be so far and get along that. But wait a second. It looks like people around here live long. Oh, so therefore there must be immortal. Oh, so there must be a way for me to figure out how to package that and sell it.
Hold on. Not just live long. Well, theoretically immortal.
They're not immortal.
They're not immortal, but their lifespan is so much longer. They're running on biblical lifespans.
He doesn't know.
Genesis lifespan.
There's no
old book.
There's no talk of anybody dying of old age. I mean, he says the guy's father's running around. He's over 1,000 years old.
Right. So he's grasping. Yeah. Is it a straw? Yes, it is. But he's making it a point. We haven't come across any planet that Klingons die, Romulans die. They don't live. Vulcans live a couple hundred.
But it would be the same way. It would be like going to Vulcan and saying, you know, these Vulcans, they've got this mind meld, and I'm gonna find it in a plant and eat it and sell it.
But Vulcans are another species. The Kones and the Yangs are technically human. Nowhere does it say they're a different genetic code.
And this isn't the only time in Star Trek where they do the whole planet where everybody's super healthy and living forever kind of thing.
That's utopian society.
This particular episode falls under. What do we call it? It was said before.
The parallel universe.
The parallel development.
Parallel development theory.
There's a guy's name associated with it.
Yeah, it was in Bread and Circuses.
Bread and Circuses.
Yeah.
So this episode falls under that theory.
Right.
There's a couple of episodes that are similar to parallel development.
Well, even outside of the parallel societal development, there is at least one other episode where they find a planet where everybody's perfectly healthy and living forever.
The one with the children, all the adults died and the children were hundreds of years old.
Right.
So Tracy's cracked, no doubt about it. But he's cracked and he's holding on to a thin straw. But there is some logic or truth behind his thin straw he's holding on to, that these people live beyond regular human life.
And the other thing is, if he knew anything about Jim Kirk, you've got Kirk there, and you're like, look, Jim,
Hodgkin's law.
Look, why don't you just throw away your career? I know your ship is still intact. I know you still have a crew. Let them go away, and then we'll figure this out, and then they'll send us a fleet of starships.
Yeah, he shouldn't.
Jim.
See, he's cracked.
Jim, we're going to be rich.
He's cracked.
Kirk's like, I don't want money. I got a starship.
Yeah, he should have known, but the writing required. The writing required that conflict.
Captain Tracy's sitting there looking at Jim talking about, listen, we'll call the company Pfizer. Everything will be fine. It's gonna be great. We're gonna be rich.
And then
Hit the button.
try the purple one.
Is that what you're looking
There it
for?
is.
Yeah,
There it
that's
is.
the one. Yeah, so
And then what begins to happen? What comes next is probably one of the best Kirk beat downs.
yeah. So Kirk goes, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
So when Tracy gets up to walk away, Kirk knocks the gun out. They
Kirk.
start fighting over the gun, and then
Kirk breaks out the judo. But
they,
Tracy,
they,
Tracy.
they start fighting over the gun. And Kirk sort of has Tracy pinned for a second, and then Tracy neck chops him, judo chops him,
Mhm.
and then the fights ensue. And Tracy is one step ahead of Kirk
Oh yeah.
throughout
The
this
whole thing.
entire
Oh, yeah.
episode. Kirk is the man. Kirk is the golden boy in Starfleet. But Tracy, the senior officer,
Yeah.
one of their best officer, is one step ahead of Kirk in
True.
every point.
Mhm.
Tracy's exercising the Admiral's theory.
Oh my God.
Age and treachery will defeat youth and skill.
So no, but it was Tracy's skill actually, because
Yes.
everything Kirk threw, Tracy countered and hit back.
And smiled. He was smiling.
Yeah, he was beating Kirk's
He
behind.
beat him.
How many series where the main character gets his behind kicked, and this is one of them. That's one of the great things about Terminator. Finally getting to see Arnold Schwarzenegger beat down, because he was in so many movies. He was kicking people's behinds.
Yeah.
In Terminator, he's whimpering like a baby. As the
No. You're talking
the
Predator.
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 Excuse me, people.
Predator.
Arnold Schwarzenegger gets beat down by
If you listen to the sound effects, he's like,
oh my God.
he's like going like,
yeah, he's whimpering like a baby.
Yeah, he doesn't understand what's happening to him.
How many episodes in any show do you see the main guy getting his behind handed to him?
Do you remember when the Predator was punching him, and then it clicks to infrared, and you just see this? He hits him, and you just see Arnold just turn his head, and it's just a splash of blood goes flying.
So you see this, and once again, it puts you on another notch
Right.
of how good Tracy
How
is.
good Tracy is.
Tracy's, like I said, he's a step. And you look at the episodes, the captain episodes of Kirk and the Corbinite maneuver and all these smart and witty things Kirk puts together to wiggle his way out of stuff. Tracy's got that in the bag.
Yeah.
He's like, I know every trick you're going to pull. I know every regulation you believe that you hold to. I know it all.
Tracy's a Decker level guy. It's just like that poor red shirt in the hallway with Decker. He knew his stuff, but Decker knew more.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
and that's very similar to the length and the duration and the intensity of the fight between Decker and the red shirt and
Tracy
and Kirk.
Yeah.
Well, there was a difference in that fight. Decker and the red shirt. Decker was a little more cunning.
Yes.
Tracy wasn't cunning at
No,
all.
he took Kirk head on.
Tracy toe to toe.
Took
He's
Kirk head
like
on.
standing. He's almost like waving at him.
Oh yeah,
He's almost
smiling.
like Finnegan. Come on, Jimmy boy.
Yeah.
Come on, Jimmy boy.
Yeah.
He lays Kirk out.
Yeah, he does.
Which is the second blow to the head in the episode.
Yeah, it's the second time Kirk is
Second time.
rendered
He
unconscious.
lays him out.
Because he spends a lot of time unconscious.
So
Yeah.
after that,
Kirk gets some rest in this episode.
they drag Kirk and says, "Okay, you're holding on to the Prime Directive, and you're not going to fight and kill somebody to save your own life.
Let me show you something.
Let's see how long that lasts, buddy."
Mhm.
So he throws him into the cage with the yank.
With Cloud William.
The Yanks. The
Freedom.
Yangs.
With the yang. And
Freedom.
and Yang begins to attack.
Immediately begins to try to work Kirk over.
Try to work Kirk
But
over.
Kirk's holding on.
Kirk's holding on against the Yang, but he couldn't hold on against Tracy.
Just he's like, if you put Tracy in there, it would have been like 3 punches.
Oh yeah. He would have broke Cloud Williams' neck.
Yeah.
But it was a point of trying to move Kirk beyond this pacifistic stance that you're taking.
Right. Trying to make Kirk see the situation.
Will you fight to save your own life?
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess the argument could be made that Kirk wasn't trying to kill him. He was just fighting to defend himself.
Yeah, Kirk was definitely just holding him off. He wasn't trying to finish him.
Of course, of course he wasn't.
Yeah.
But that's just one. If you got 20,
Right.
you can only. And Spock makes mention, and she goes, "Spock, you got any advice?" He goes, "Well, Captain, they could switch off
And just wear you down.
and wear you down, because
the girl's attacking him too.
Right. So you got Cloud Williams and
They
non Raquel.
they say her name like once, and I can't think of
I
it.
don't even know. It doesn't matter. She's not Raquel Williams. Doesn't matter.
Raquel Welch. Is that what you're thinking
Welch,
of?
thank you. So it's Kirk, Cloud William, and non Raquel. And Spock's in a different cage.
Spock's in the cage like I found that part kind of funny.
So-
Spock's just kind of over there like, maybe you should try talking to them.
Yeah,
As you hear, psh, psh.
Yeah, so Kirk's trying to keep Cloud William off of him,
Cloud Williams a big guy.
and Kirk does what we would consider dastardly. He grabs the girl by the throat,
Right.
He does.
and he finds
She
out,
got a little equality.
and finds out.
Oh.
Well, Kirk's a 24th century man. You treat men and women equally.
She ran in
You
there.
gonna put some beat down on Cloud Williams? She got some coming too.
She ran in there and swung on him. And
Come on, sisters, aren't we together? You know, you're able to stand toe to toe, and what the new movie shows. So Kirk's going, I'm gonna beat Cloud Williams, but I'm gonna beat her. I'm gonna beat non Raquel's too.
Who really believes in equality?
I do. Fists go around equally.
Oh.
I'm in there with Kirk. Non Raquel catches the punches too.
So luckily,
See,
Spock
only
can
way-
reach in. He reaches in. He grabs down Raquel, gives her the Vulcan nerve pinch. She goes down. Cloud William runs over there
To protect her and
protect her.
and check on her.
Yeah.
Check on.
That's the only time he stops
Well,
fighting.
Yeah.
To Mark's point, when Kirk grabs her, Kirk figures out that this guy is not a completely unreasonning barbaric
He's defending
dude.
her.
He's defending her because the guy stops when Kirk's got her.
Right.
And then
And then they start circling,
Right.
and Cloud Williams is keeping non Raquel
Behind him.
behind him, right.
protecting her from the savage Kirk. Because how dare he touch a woman?
But old Count Spocula reaches out.
Spock.
Oh my God!
Count Spocula reaches out and pinches her and pinches.
We see more of Count Spocula later on. That's not the only connection they made in
Oh,
the
that's a
episode.
good one.
There's your next T-shirt.
That's a good one.
Count Spocula.
Put Spock's head on Count Chocula.
Oh, that's a good one. So she passes out, and Cloud Williams protects her. Now we're using his name. He gives his name later at the end of the episode, but
Right.
we're using it so those listeners, the Men on Track, can understand we're talking about the protagonist
The
of
head,
the Yang.
the head Yang.
Head Yang.
Yeah.
So she's down. He's down on the ground, not cuddling, but
Shielding her.
shielding her.
Checking
Thank you.
her,
That's
checking
the word.
on her, shielding
That's the
her.
word I wanted.
He's trying to reach an equal level with her.
So
I like
so Spock and Kirk
Yes.
are having the conversation, and Kirk's like, "Look," Spock's telling Kirk what he need to do, and Spock is telling Kirk what he needs to do, and Kirk's like, "Look, we just need to get our freedom."
Right.
Freedom.
And then
Freedom.
the first time Cloud Williams actually speaks. For now, you think he's like,
Some mute barbarian.
right? What I thought of was Planet
Planet
of
of the
the
Apes.
Planet of the
Yeah.
Apes, where the humans can no longer.
Get your hands
Well,
off me, you
can no
damn
longer
dirty
talk.
ape.
But Cloud Williams responds to freedom.
What was that girl's name? Nova, right?
Nova. I was Nova.
Yeah, that was Nova.
So Cloud Williams responds, and Kirk goes, freedom. He goes,
Freedom.
Cloud Williams goes, that's one of our holy words.
Our holy words. Don't speak our holy words.
And Kirk goes, that's our holy words as well. Once again, Kirk jumps on the lifeline.
Takes the thread. Yeah.
I'm going with this. I'm going with this
Freedom.
raft, no matter where it's going.
Freedom, you say? Let's talk about freedom.
So they start to
Stop punching me in the face.
They start to. Kirk sort of walks past him and starts working on the bars
Right.
because Cloud Williams is no longer attacking.
Right.
He's now verbalizing, which we didn't know he could at this point.
Right.
So him and Cloud Williams start working together, and they get the bars open. And as soon as Kirk thinks, okay, everything's golden, he turns back to Spock. He gets hit for the third time in the head.
Third time in the head.
Right. With a pipe. With a metal
pipe,
bar.
which
Must
should
be a
have been
bar.
the end of James T.
That should have.
That's what happens when you trust Barbarian Wildman.
Yeah.
Should never turned his back on Cloud Williams.
No.
Cloud Williams should have hit him, beat him, and then the two of them ate him before they climbed out the window.
They ain't got time for that. They got to get out of the
Cloud
game.
Cloud Williams not a
Yeah.
helpful sort like that.
Really?
No, he got to
Okay.
he got to get out of the Kong settlement.
Now,
Gotcha.
I slightly questioned Cloud Williams clobbering Kirk at that point because it seemed like they'd come to some detente. Seemed like they were working for a common purpose, you know. Because Cloud Williams is even like, you know, you talk to my enemy, that's why I'm going to kill you. And Kirk's like, I'm in here, I'm in the cage with you. I'm a
Right,
prisoner
right.
with you. I would have thought Cloud Williams would have been like, okay, we're working in the same direction here, and he would have escaped with Kirk. But no, he gives him the pipe.
But it just reinforces in the story the idea that you can't reason with them, even
Right.
when it looks apparent
yeah.
that this guy, if nothing else, he's probably neutral and may be an ally, and then he's like, nah, I'm just gonna hit him.
So Cloud Williams escapes. Next scene, Kirk wakes up, and he asks Spock how long he's been out.
Haven't gotten a nice long nap.
Nice long nap.
7 hours.
7 hours.
8 minutes.
He should have died from that
he
fight.
should have.
You've been unconscious for 7 hours from being hit on
from
the
blunt force trauma.
from blood force trauma. You have a brain swell. You have brain bleed. You're not getting back up.
Yeah.
Not without one eye drooping or something.
Kirk gets right up, just is like, oh boy.
Kirk gets up like, oh, good night's sleep. Ah.
So
Then they find a set of keys.
yep. So they're thinking, well, how are we going to get out of here? And there's a set of keys sitting on the.
Oh, and incidentally,
table.
Incidentally, no guard has entered the cell for 7 hours because they don't come in and see the bars are out of the window that anybody's gone.
Right. So they
something like
a
that.
set of keys sitting on the table, and Kirk looks at the window and goes,
I'll
I'll have you out in a minute.
second. Yeah.
Yeah.
and he jumps out the window and comes around. But they don't show
But
him.
isn't there a scene where McCoy gets dinner?
They're cutting to that.
Okay.
So, right. Then it cuts to McCoy.
Who's researching the disease?
Well, before the disease, McCoy's ooh-wee comes in.
Well, no, she was not ooey.
I know, but I'm just saying.
yes, she
It was someone from McCoy.
She was ooey from like
For those heavy Star Trek fans, we all know McCoy is a woman chaser.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I can say something a little indelicate, but I won't. He's a woman chaser. So
when were you
so-
ever delicate?
so they bring in food from McCoy.
bring-
I'd say they.
They bring
she
They
brings
br-
in
They bring in
Food-
ooey from Wish.
food from
Mhm.
McCoy.
It's not real ooey.
Food from McCoy.
Imitation.
And it is a young
It's imitation.
Mid-drift.
young Chinese girl or Oriental girl.
Chai com imitation ooey.
And she has midriffs and long, luscious black hair.
I was more interested in the sweet and sour chicken that she was serving.
So
With the
McCoy,
sauce on the side.
Gotta have a salt.
McCoy takes the food, but first
But McCoy never misses an opportunity.
to examine the human anatomy.
McCoy never.
He says, thank you. Then he looks at her again and goes, thank you very much.
McCoy never misses an opportunity.
That's what I'm saying.
Kirk's ex-girlfriend lawyer going to prosecute him?
Oh yeah, McCoy's
How you
Oh, yeah.
doing?
Let me
yeah.
buy you a drink.
Oh yeah, he's
How you doing?
He's horn dogging.
Planet of automatons that kill you if you fantasize wrong?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah.
McCoy never.
McCoy is a horny toad.
McCoy never misses an opportunity.
For those of you in Men in Track, if you get a chance, watch Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Hilarious movie.
Oh,
Oh, George Clooney.
George Clooney.
Yeah.
McCoy is a horny toad. That's a reference from old brother where I
You
thought.
should have RUNNOFT.
So she brings in the food. McCoy does his thank you for the young lady.
McCoy never misses an opportunity.
And he goes about trying to sneak some tools,
Yeah, there's something he wants to grab,
but the guard is watching.
but the guard who seems to be asleep is
watching.
not so easily fooled.
So there's some scrape at the door, and some more scrape, and the third time the guard opens the door, and Kirk
Jumps
out, and you think, well, that was stupid. And as soon as the guard rushes towards Kirk,
Spocula.
the Count Spocula from behind from the other side of the wall catches the guard on his way to Kirk and puts the sleeping pinch.
I gotta find out if they teach that in jiu-jitsu.
Puts the Vulcan grab, the
Put
Vulcan,
the Vulcan
pinch
nerve pinch on him.
and the guy goes down.
Yep.
So
And
now
then they get in and close the door and don't lock it and don't post a guard.
So now we
And
have
leave the sword outside.
we have the intrepid trio inside
And McCoy explains the whole deal with the disease.
conversating, and McCoy explains that there was a huge biological warfare, and only the strongest
Survived.
genetics that could survive the biologics survived, and these people naturally became long life. And he said, "You could this fountain of youth, yeah, it could potentially be done if you're willing to destroy the population of a planet
To do it, right?
and give many years, thousands of years, for them to come back better."
Right.
So Kirk gets upset because he's like, all this was for nothing.
And McCoy in 1968 expresses a universal truth that is still valuable today. The only secret to longevity is exercise and a healthy diet.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he
Exactly what he said.
Yep.
So if you're out there and you're trying to figure out how to get a little better,
You taking that special pill from some doctor?
yeah, you're trying to get off those scripts, eat right, exercise.
And by the way, Spock says, I found some stuff and I can make a communicator.
Yeah, he's going to turn one of the medical devices into a communications device.
Yeah.
Well,
Using the fork that McCoy was trying to pick up, so maybe McCoy
that's not too far off, seeing how that medical device is already sending information
to
back
the ship.
to
Sure.
the ship. All you should be able to do is, do some stuff and use Morse code or something.
Get the
Right.
voice communications right.
Yep. Yeah.
Because it's already sending back information to the ship. So that's
While
not
they're
too
doing
far
that,
off.
of course, they leave the door unlocked and unguarded so
Yes.
that Tracy can come in again. And this time he phasers the medical device in which Spock has
Standing next.
standing next to it. And Spock receives a partial
Spock receives some blowback from the phaser
blowback
shot.
from the phaser
Yeah, it's
shot.
probably the radiated heat.
Mm-hmm.
The thing superheating.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah, it hurt him bad.
People don't understand in real physics, when you superheat something to that degree, the outpouring of radiation from it can probably kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Just in my field, electrical, if you get an arc flash, the flash, the arc doesn't necessarily have to touch you, but the superheating of the air, if you suck in at the time the flash happens, it can sear your lungs and you die from it. So, just a little physics.
And it was kind of cool that, in this, I don't know if it happened in other episodes, but it was kind of cool that they showed that if you're standing nearby when a phaser blast goes off, that bad things happen.
Yep.
Even if you're not hit.
Yep. We said this before on, I think it was Arena, talking about the residue damage.
Mm-hmm.
Most people die from the radiation
Oh, probably so, yeah.
because there was no bodies left in the arena. But
Right.
So Tracy comes back in, and Tracy's been beat down.
Yeah, Tracy's in rough shape.
He's been beat down, and that's when Tracy makes the statement
I
that
drained 4 phases.
I drained 4 phasers and killed thousands,
and they kept coming.
and they're still coming.
Like, don't you understand what you've done?
So he tells Kirk, you need to call the ship. Is that earlier?
Well,
or
at first he accuses him of letting Cloud William go and
Yes.
warning
Yeah.
people.
To warn them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kirk's trying to reason with them, saying, hey,
Yeah, all this is for nothing.
this is all for nothing. There's no point to this. And McCoy chews him out, saying, your fountain of youth is bunk. And
Says leave medical matters to medical men.
yeah,
Captain.
yeah.
Yep. You better get that
And he's
you better get that vaccine. Let
Yeah.
the medical men tell you what to do.
I don't know. Think I'm gonna eat healthy and exercise.
Oh, we'll definitely get banned on YouTube for that.
So then Tracy
Wow,
takes
we didn't
Kirk
say the C
outside,
word.
right? He takes Kirk outside,
Yeah, try to force him to call the ship to get more phasers.
right?
He wants 10 phasers and 3 power packs per phaser.
Yep.
That's a lot of bang bang.
And Kirk does it. No problem. Easy.
Except
What's that?
Queens to Queens level 3.
No, it's easy, simply. Trying to think of that.
Oh, easy, simple, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
What is
It's
it?
easy, simple, barely
Barely
an
an
inconvenience.
It's a shout out to another YouTube page that we like a lot.
Okay.
We'll
And that's
ta-
one of the catchphrases. I'll
yeah,
show it to you
We'll
later.
show it to you.
So Kirk calls the ship, tells Uhura, yeah, I need 10 more phasers and
3 power
three
packs
power
per
packs each.
per phaser. Yeah.
And Uhura's like,
What?
and Tracy goes, tell him again. Kirk goes, yeah,
Yeah.
10 phasers and 3 more power packs.
And she gets Sulu.
She's like, oh,
she's
the
like-
Captain he's definitely
Something's wrong.
He's definitely lost it now. So Sulu comes over, and Sulu goes, "What do you need, Captain?"
I need phasers. And
I need
power
favor.
packs.
He goes, "You know we can't do that, don't you? We
Yeah.
need authorization. Authorization more than your captain can give you to have."
I think that was another one of those moments where they were looking for the Kirk code word.
Yeah, he didn't say authorization. He goes, of course, like we can't do that without verification.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's verified.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they were looking for another Queens to Queens level 3
absolutely.
situation.
Yeah,
Kirk and his his coded transmissions.
that's right.
Yeah. So, but Tracy's like, your crew is very well trained.
And Kirk just goes like this. He just goes,
Sorry,
sorry,
no guns for you.
no guns for me.
And then when Tracy's threatening Kirk, he's like, you're going to get it. And Kirk's like, yeah, there's no problem down here because he's willing to give his life anyway, right?
Right.
Prime Directive requires you to give your life.
Right,
Doesn't matter if I get phasered by you or I get stabbed by the Yangs.
right.
And Kirk doesn't stop to make the speech, but you know what he's thinking. My ship is safe.
Right.
Do what you got to do, Tracy.
Oh
see-
yeah.
see
See, I
that-
would have said, yeah. Well, as soon as he said, your bridge crew is well trained, I would have said, well, if yours was, maybe they'd still be alive.
Oh, that's
Ooh,
dirty.
burn,
That's a dirty.
burn.
That's a dirty stab.
Burn.
That's a dirty stab. But that's why you're Palpatine. So,
Okay.
but it's the point, and once again, like Decker, a captain who's lost everything,
Yes.
and the everything is his ship,
Right.
ship and career. Because you can move to another ship unless you lost the ship,
Right.
which means your career is probably
Toast.
over. So you got nothing. You might as well get ready for the Orion slave girls and another job in Starfleet.
I think that's pie in the sky. I think your destiny is a garbage scow.
No,
flying-
you have to get out of Starfleet and do something completely different.
I think your destiny is a garbage scow flying
I
out
don't
of
think so.
Pluto.
The level of guy who becomes a starship captain will be wanted in just about any other field.
Cruise ship.
As long as you didn't know, not another ball cruise ship guy, not a love boat.
Not a love boat.
But-
I don't know.
So Memory Alpha says that the Exeter was scrapped soon after her recovery. So it probably was almost a 30-year-old ship. And instead of going through the whole decontaminate, they just scrapped it.
They instead of refitting her, they
Right.
Yeah. So Kirk doesn't get the phasers. And the next scene, the battle, another fight between
the
phaser fight.
The next round with Tracy. Tracy's Kirk takes off. Kirk pops Tracy and takes off running. Tracy shoots at him with the phaser, misses, and then Kirk gets another beating.
Well, it was a little more equal, but Tracy's already beat down, so Tracy's already taken damage.
And Kirk stuck to his strengths. Kirk took him to the ground. He's grappling with him.
Right.
You know, he's breaking out them same MMA skills that defeated the Gorn.
Until Tracy gets the headman's axe.
This is true.
And then they're wrestling on the ground until Cloud Williams, the Yank boys appear with spears.
Yeah, until the Yangs appear. And then they get dragged, and they get drugged before the Yangs. And Tracy, just like you said through the whole episode, we're used to Kirk coming up with something to get out of a situation. Tracy pipes up and goes, "Roll with this. I'm gonna figure this out. Follow my lead."
Tracy blocks him like your little brother blocks you from your girlfriend.
I'll take your word for it.
Tracy blocks him at every corner.
But before Tracy turns on him because they won't play ball, Tracy's the one that speaks up and goes, "I got this, Kirk, but you need to play ball. You need to follow my lead." And he said, "Because if you don't, I'll take us all down."
Yep.
He
warns him.
Crazy.
He warns him.
Because he's still
Gentlemen, do what I do, or all of us are going down.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Boss. Like who's gonna listen to?
He
Such
warns
a
him.
nut.
So
And then he goes off on one of the classic, just deep end moments where he starts like an evangelical sort of preacher or something, and just starts leveraging the religion and Spock's Satan, and Kirk is
it's
false prophet.
It's a primitive people, and he's using everything that, the God strike me down if I'm false. and all this
have your God kill me right now if I'm lying.
Because the Cloud Williams starts to say
The holy words.
the holy words, and Kirk picks
Doesn't
up.
remember them quite.
He picks up on the first.
On the first one, yes.
Well, he gets the Pledge of
He
Allegiance,
gets the
right?
pledge-
He gets the
Kirk
Pledge of
picks
Allegiance.
up on the
But
Pledge
he
of
doesn't.
Allegiance.
He doesn't immediately get E Planista.
But what happens is the pledge.
Librius
Kirk
Unum.
picks up on the Pledge of Allegiance, and Cloud Williams goes, "How do you know our holy words?" And then Tracy jumps in. He goes, "He's a deceiver. He's using your holy words to deceive you." And Cloud Williams is now confused.
Right.
And he goes, "How can he do that?" Because the deceiver deceives people. Look at his servant.
Right.
His servant is the evil one. And the guy opens the Bible or whatever book it is.
It was supposed to be
It's
the Bible.
Count Spocula
Yeah. What prop guy?
holding a box of cereal.
What prop guy? What prop guy? What prop guy put that corny picture? That corny Spot angel picture.
His 8-year-old
In a
daughter
Bible.
drew.
I think it was meant to be the devil.
Well, it was, but that picture is not in anybody's Bible. Somebody drew this little corny Vulcan devil picture
Count
and stuck it in the
Count Spocula. That's the box cover for the cereal.
That's not the point. The point is Tracy. Tracy is ahead of them, or Kirk in every step.
Oh, yeah.
No matter
Tracy.
what Kirk says,
Tracy's preaching.
Tracy is 2 steps in front of
I'm
him.
surprised Tracy's not the one that said, let us fight to the death, because I've already cleaned his clock twice.
No, Tracy's got it flipped that unless Kirk, because Cloud Williams goes, "Okay, you knew these words, then you should know the next words." And he
next
goes to the e pluribus unum or whatever.
And the beauty,
E Planista.
the beauty of Tracy's deception is he's screaming so loud that they never even stop and go, "Well, do you know the words?"
Right. He switched all the emphasis on who's because the
Cloud William even says, he goes, "You are with them," and he's like, "Well, didn't you try to kill me?" That's why I was killing you.
Yeah, no, he said, "I killed."
Yeah,
He said,
you
"You killed
killed
us." He goes,
said,
because
"You were
you tried
trying
to kill me." That's simple.
And Cloud Williams goes, I am confused.
So since Kirk knew
Bring Count Chocula forward.
since Kirk knew the first words,
Bring
now
forth the great
question
devil.
the question is, can either one of you say
The words.
the second words?
Right.
And Tracy flips it from him even trying to that Kirk can't.
Right. The evil guy's tongue will burn.
So it became a problem that the evil guy can't say it because his tongue will burn, and Tracy wasn't even trying to say it.
Right. Tracy
Trying
was
to
not-
remember.
Right.
So he made he's once again he's one step ahead of Kirk.
One step
And Kirk can't put it together, so Kirk flips the script and says, "Doesn't your word say something about a trial by combat? The good,
Oh, but don't forget,
the
forget the devil has no heart.
the good.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Don't forget
Thank
the devil
you.
has no heart.
So Tracy,
Because Tracy's like,
so Tracy, to prove his point about Kirk serving as the devil, and of course Spock's pictures in the book, he goes, "The devil has no heart," and McCoy jumps in and goes,
His anatomy is not shushing.
They don't know nothing about anatomy. They don't even know what the word means.
Yeah.
So they pull Spock over, and Cloud Williams puts his head to his chest and goes, "He has no heart." So it's like,
Tracy's
man,
like,
it's,
see?
yeah, it's looking bad.
It's the devil.
the devil.
It's looking
devil.
bad. It's looking bad for Kirk.
Could it be
It's looking bad for
Satan?
Kirk. So Kirk comes up with, doesn't your word say the good will always be evil?
Be
Let
evil.
us have a trial by combat.
And Nan Raquel says, it does say that.
Yeah, see,
And then there's the elder. There's an elder there. The
Yes.
little guy with the blue hair.
the
elder's there.
guy in the plastic hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the trial, but the
Mitch McConnell.
Non Raquel agrees that that's what the sacred words say,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a trial by combat, which is to death.
Right.
And McCoy standing by Spock makes a very
He says, in order for good to triumph over evil, good has to be very, very careful.
he said, I found
That usually evil triumphs over good,
Evil-
unless good
Good
is
is
very,
very,
very
very
careful.
careful.
But that's okay. Because as Kirk and Tracy are having their trial by combat and Tracy's beating Kirk up again, consistency.
Beating him down.
Kirk doesn't suddenly make a comeback. Tracy's working him over. But it's okay. It's okay.
Count Spockula's got a plan.
Count Spocula's got a plan. You guys say you remember him doing this in another episode. I don't ever remember Spock doing this.
He did it in the Taste of Armageddon, where he got the guy
through the wall.
through the
through the
wall.
wall
Okay. Well,
to imagine that he had heard something and opened the
Yeah.
door.
well, Spock goes full Bela Lugosi. They even put the camera on him. He goes full Bela Lugosi. Count Spocula. He stares at not Raquel. Stares at her, and they zero in his eyes, just like Bela Lugosi in the old Dracula movie. And they go, and
You see McCoy his head comes in frame.
McCoy,
He's like, what are you doing?
McCoy's having flashbacks to what happened to him
In mirror,
because
mirror.
he's not.
Mind probe. Have you been probed in your mind?
Flashbacks to a bad time. But Spock goes full Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, he does.
and mesmerizes not Raquel from across the room.
Yep.
Makes her pick up the communicator and bring it to him.
Walks it over to him. Yep.
And I'm just like, what?
And then opens it up. Boom.
And then opens it up.
So while the battle is going on and Kirk is having a hard time with Tracy.
Having a hard time with losing.
Well,
Then he gets the arm bar. He goes
Kirk-
he goes full
Kirk-
Joe
he's-
Rogan.
he's-
He goes Joe Rogan on him.
He's
and
losing
arm
until
bar
he gets the arm bar, and then he gets
Kirk's good on the ground. He's a jujitsu guy.
Yeah.
he,
Yeah.
he,
Jiu-jitsu
he
guy.
gets the weapon from Tracy, and he's got it now at Tracy's neck. And Cloud Williams like, kill him,
Kill him.
kill him. And then that time, Sulu and the Bully Boys beamed down.
Sulu and
with
the
the
red
pompadour
Yeah.
haircut.
Both guys got pompadour. They must have been on the Grease set. Extras from Grease.
But yeah, so the day is saved.
Now, who's in charge when Sulu comes down?
Uhura.
Okay,
No,
I gotcha.
Scotty's still on the ship. He just wasn't in the episode.
Okay, I got you.
Well, yeah, technically, but in the context of who was there, Uhura probably would have had the con at that moment.
Scotty takes back over.
I personally,
There was something there that I had a real problem with. So then there's two bully boys, and Kirk says, place Tracy
take
under
Tracy
arrest.
outside, yeah.
And they start walking away, and I'm like, those bully boys
Ain't bad enough.
are gonna get beat down as soon as he gets to that doorway.
They couldn't. The bully, one of the security guys couldn't handle old man Decker. Ain't no way they're gonna handle Tracy. Tracy's gonna be both of their behinds and have two faces.
That's why Tracy didn't say anything. He's like, place him on arrest, take him out, and he's like, come on, guys, we'll walk out this door.
I'd have stunned him and carried him out.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have stunned him and carried him out over my shoulder.
Absolutely.
No,
And irons.
What was it? I will tase you and have you drool into the carpet while I watch Super Nanny.
Nope. I am Mace Windu. He is too dangerous to be left alive. I'm phasing Tracy right here and right now. He ain't going back for court martial.
No.
I got enough officers around me. I'm court-martialing them right now.
Yeah, I'm killing Tracy right now, and I'm going to write it off that he died with honor. And he ain't going no more.
No. Tracy's not getting a good write-up.
No, it doesn't matter once he's dead.
It
doesn't matter once he's dead. His whole ship is dead.
No, Tracy's not getting a good write-up. I'm putting it down in the record. He's a dirty rat, and he violated the Prime Directive, and he hit me in my...
You damn right I
hit
did.
me in the and I shot him.
You damn right I did.
So Sulu starts to walk the boys out, and then it comes all of beating upside Kirk's head. The words come back to his mind.
Yeah.
And it's we, the people.
I think they were trying to say a plebeius unum.
Yeah.
E planista.
E pluribus.
E pluribus
We
unum.
the people.
We-
E planista.
We the people in order to form a more perfect union. And it's the preamble to the Constitution.
That was Schoolhouse Rock. Remember that one?
Yep.
That's one of them.
In order to form a more perfect union.
So Kirk goes ahead and recites the Constitution and says that we have a tribe where I'm from.
And that Canadian delivered a stirring rendition of our principles and guidelines.
Don't say our principles. We don't even believe it anymore.
Who don't? I do. No, that's fine. That's just fine.
A lot of
Matter of
Americans no longer believe
Well, screw them.
in the Constitution.
Time to pray, Captain.
But he gives us a stirring rendition of the preamble to the Constitution and why it's important. And then he says that these words, because they were holding it for holy men and for kings.
Right.
And Kirk makes a statement, these words
Not for holy men.
were meant for every
Everyone.
man,
They must apply to everyone.
including the
The cones.
cones, which are the communists,
Communists.
Right.
I heartily disagree.
and the Yanks, or
Yankees.
Yangs, which are the Yankees.
Yankees.
So in their world,
Good Yankees.
in their world, which we skipped, their great battle that was
United States.
Oh, we missed the part where Cloud William dropped down on his knees in front of Kirk.
to worship.
Said, "You
him.
are the great God, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
are your slaves."
Kirk said.
Kirk said, "Stand up, stand man to man, don't kneel."
What he should have said was,
Time to pray, Captain. Pray to me.
So Kirk tells
"Time
him,
to pray."
Kirk tells him to stand up and tells him that these words are for all people. And then their great war, the communists
And
won.
and the Yankees. Yes, they
The
did.
communists won,
Yeah.
and the Yankees were driven out of their land. And the point where the Enterprise comes in, the Yankees are taking back what was once theirs,
Right.
and now theirs again.
Yes. Never to be taken again.
So the parallel evolution on their planet, the communists won, and
And they bring in the colors. with
they bring
with
Old Glory.
great reference.
Oh, there was a neat moment in there when they first brought the colors in before, Captain Tracy had all his accusations, and when they walked in with the American flag, Spock, McCoy, and Kirk stood up.
Yeah, I did.
That you do not kneel
Yeah,
before the flag.
no, you don't. But I disagree with that part about it being for the cons too.
Well, he said if these words are to be believed, they're for
Oh, I know.
all men to believe.
I know what he said.
And Cloud Cloud Williams goes, not the cons,
I'm with Cloud
or
on
not
that
the
one.
what we call them again,
Combs.
the cones, not the cones. And Kirk goes, if you believe in these words, then you believe these words should be for all mankind.
Except,
And it would be great if these words were adhered to by all mankind.
And he says, I do not understand,
but
but the holy words will be followed.
yes,
You don't have to understand.
That's right.
for the Yankees.
You don't have to understand. That's a tenet. Obedience.
And usually at the end of an episode, we see them back on the bridge and they have their little chat. Instead, they do it in the doorway, on the inside of the doorway, where they say, "Well, they've got their liberty. Let's leave them at it." On the outside of the doorway, Tracy has just beaten those two red shirts into a pulp,
and escaped.
and he's running towards the hills. So.
No,
Count Spocula's pulled us up.
Count Spocula, full Bela Lugosi. When they zeroed on his eyes, I couldn't take it. I was like, "Oh man!"
But
Yeah.
that is Omega
Omega
Glory.
Glory.
Omega Glory.
Omega Glory. And
What do you think the title means? Does that come from the Alpha and the Omega?
No, I think it means Old Glory.
Oh.
Could be, yeah. The end. Could the end of glory? No, I agree. Old glory.
The magnification of glory.
Yeah,
Or the end of old glory in the war.
could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's
Striking commentary that we happen to watch this episode, considering all that's going on right now. But pretty striking commentary.
Are you talking about the disease and the communists?
Yeah. Disease, communists, all of that.
Disease made by somebody
Yeah.
that wiped out practically humankind?
Well, ours is 99% recoverable, but that's different.
Oh, don't say that. That's against YouTube standards.
As long as I don't say the C word.
Oh,
But
oh yeah, we're liberated now.
strike me down and I will become more powerful than you could imagine. But yeah, Omega Glory.
Great Captain's episode.
Great.
Great captain's episode.
It's hard to see these captains break.
Right.
When they break, and as you said before, Captain
Some of them are pathetic. You feel bad for them. Some of them go full goose bozo.
Yeah, when they break hard.
They break hard.
They break hard. So
You're just glad these guys, I'm surprised one of the 13 or 14 ships
13.
didn't fly back to Earth and just start
Blast.
phaser bombarding from orbit.
That's what's the one after Into Darkness? The new
Beyond.
Oh,
Star Trek Beyond.
Beyond.
That was a broken captain.
And broken
got a
captain.
broken captain.
Yeah,
And
another
he-
broken captain.
He wanted to fly back
Yeah,
and take out the what starbase was it?
that starbase was called Intrepid.
Starbase Intrepid.
Yeah.
Broken captain. The issue in Star Trek is there's so much put upon the shoulders of these guys. They have so much power. The starship can float around a planet and devastate a planet.
Mm-hmm.
That when these guys break,
It's bad.
they break hard.
Yeah. They have to be their own checks and balances. They have to be their own police when they're out there. Because we saw in the beginning of this episode, the Exeter for 6 months has not contacted anybody, and nobody's looking for you.
Nobody looking for you. You're on a 5-year mission, man.
I mean, you could literally go off crazy, and you could wipe out dozens of planets before
Before-
anybody even gets wind of it.
For anybody knows
Yeah.
about it.
Good.
And these captains, because of all the stuff they go through, they seem to be good until they lose their ship and crew.
Well, part of like you say they're out there on their own and they're their own policemen, but part of it is the support and feedback from the crew. You got a good first officer kind of helping you stay level, and you got a Dr.
Well, you hope.
McCoy, and
You
you
hope,
hope
yeah.
you hope you have people like
Well,
that.
yeah, you have
around
you have
you.
a doctor who, with the
A
support
support.
of the second officer,
Sure.
or
First
first
officer,
officer,
second officer.
could
too.
pull your coattail.
Right. Hopefully.
Well, they also
Good counsel.
they also have checks and balances on your power. McCoy often says,
yeah, I can
I'll make
relieve
you unfit for duty.
Right, I can relieve
Yeah.
you of command.
Yeah.
There's things in the regs that take into account that sometimes people lose it.
That's unless you got a Tantalus field and McCoy accidentally disappears.
I don't think it's an accident.
It ain't an
I
accident.
don't think it's an accident.
But
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
mega glory. Another great episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I had I always remembered, like, I always focus on Captain Tracy and how he just beat Kirk up for about 45
Oh, yeah.
minutes. But
Oh yeah.
the ending part, I kind of forgotten how the episode ends and all the things that kind of go with that. And, all jokes aside, it really kind of like, okay, kind of relevant at the moment, but
A very prescient episode.
very prescient episode. Yeah. About things that have to be preserved and held on to.
It's amazing when you look at bread and circuses, and they talk about the slavery,
Yeah.
and they talk about how they calmed slavery,
How they kept the slaves
how they got people to be happy
in their slavery.
in their slavery.
Mhm.
It's things we're doing today that society's croning for today.
Yeah.
That you don't want freedom, you want someone to take care of you.
Right.
And then when we look at Omega Glory, we see the trying to reestablish
I know you guys aren't a big fan of The Mandalorian,
responsibility.
but there's an episode with Bill Burr, the comedian. He plays an Imperial sharpshooter,
Mm-hmm.
but he was part of the victims of Operation Cinder when the Empire decided to just kind of like,
Palpatine's in game.
yeah. And he's sitting there with what used to be his commanding officer. And his commanding officer is like, yeah, right now the rebels think that they're out there doing what they want to do and everything. But you know what? At the end, all people really want is order. And you see Bill Burr's just kind of like shaking his head, just like looking at him. And then he just pulls a gun out and shoots him right in the chest. It's like,
Choose his commander.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
a lot of people do just want order. A lot of people do just want to be told what to do.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a doctor just tell us that America just needs to do what they're told?
Yeah, that was said.
Well, on that happy note,
Well, I think what Star Trek's trying to tell us is that you need to think and you need to challenge yourself and check yourself and take care of yourself. Dr. McCoy says to eat a healthy diet and get some exercise.
and with that,
And with that,
This has been
beam us
Bread-
out. Got to beam
This,
us out.
this has
Gotta
been Bread
beam
and
us out.
Circus.
This has
Not
been
Bread and
Bread-
Circus. Excuse me.
this is
Omega
not been
Glory.
It's
It's
been
been
Omega
Bread and
Glory.
Circus Part 2,
Yeah,
Omega
Omega
Glory.
Glory.
Yeah.
And the Admiral says, don't be a con.
That'll be a con.